I'm Thorin, also known as the Esports Historian, and I am here exclusively for Esportsbet to bring you an outright odds video. Not for CSGO, this time it's for League of Legends. It's of course going to be for the upcoming MSI, the mid-season invitational. At the time you see this video, only a few hours left to go. Maybe check it out, quickly hop on the site, see who you think's going to win. Now, of course, this is brought to you by Esportsbet, the industry's leading crypto odds matrix. They are still running their classic first-time deposit bonus of 50% on up to 100 USDT. If you don't have any crypto to deposit, you can get some free DJT, their own proprietary crypto token, just by logging into an account each day. You'll get 600 DJT, which you can then use to play in competitions like the World's Prediction Series competition, including all the tournaments like MSI included on their website. You basically play there, make predictions and bets, and if you win, you can win real crypto, and also there's a system to potentially cash in some of your DJT for other crypto. Oh, by the way, just watching matches from your favorite streamers like Dom, like LS, some of the people, by the way, who are going to be co-streaming MSI, you can actually earn back some of your rewards anyway. You can earn back roughly 1%. Check out esportsbet.io to find out the details of that. Right, so here we are. Now, as always, some people aren't actually aware of the outright odds section of the Esportsbet website. So what I'm going to show you is I'm going to go to the Esports website, I'm going to log in on Tether, which is the main one I use, USDT. And then what you do is, here's the subtlety. You don't just go to League of Legends up here and go on all the MSI bets. That's in the individual matches. What you do is you scroll all the way down, and you actually can't see it because it's under my camera. But at the bottom, below all the games on the Esports poll, there's two. One says outright and one says cyber battle. You're just going to click outright, and it'll take you to here, and then we're going to pick champion of MSI. There's also other ones you can do, region, who's going to win the groups. We're just going to do champion of the entire tournament. Then just move it over so we can actually see the different odds. So remember, all we're picking here is the winner of MSI. Now, if you remember, MSI is a different format to past years. In the past, it was just the champion of each region. It would go there. It would be best of one groups into a single elimination bracket of best of five. Now, it is best of five in the bracket, but it is double elim, and there are the top two teams from each of the regions in the tournament. So as a result, there's actually way more at play here. In the past, if it had been Gen G and JDG, the winners of the two Asian regions, all you'd really have to ask yourself is who would win when those two teams play each other, and therefore you could pretty much guess who will win the event. Obviously, rare exceptions like when G2 in 2019 was able to shock the world and win the event as a European team. This time around, you not only have 4 Asian teams, 2 LCK and 2 LPL, but you've also got the whole aspect of, depending on who plays who, like in the bracket, is there like an underdog advantage where like maybe the underdog could beat Billy, like maybe G2 could beat Billy, and so if the Billy beat the right other teams, maybe G2 could. You could do all that as well. So in theory, it also does open up the dark horses of the event more, because you could just have sort of the rest of the bracket get taken care of by the right teams, as it were. I mean, essentially this can happen in any bracket. If you basically have the number 1 team gets beat by the number 2 team, then number 3 team beats the number 2 team, then number 4 team beats the number 3 team. You can see how it becomes much easier for the number 4 team to win the event, even though they might not directly head-to-head beat the number 1 team, because essentially there's enough parity between those different matchups that you can get it so that number 4 wins in that way. So in similar fashion, let's start at the top, because obviously we're looking at the winners here, right? I actually think 2.5 odds for T1 is... Here's the thing, I don't hate it. Like, I understand why people think T1 are actually overall better than Gen G and could have drafted differently and looked like they did choke a bit. But I will just say, that's also just the identity of this T1 team. Don't they always slightly underperform? Don't they always go into the final looking like the favourite, looking like they've got all these styles, like no one can deal with certain players like Zeus or Carrier, or like the overall style, if they play their pick comp style, who can really deal with that? Like, we all say all this, but then I feel like when they're in the big moment, they actually play a bit more reserved. They don't do a lot of that stuff. Some of the individual players like Zeus don't play quite as well. Faker doesn't ever seem to pop off just quite as much. Carrier seems to be a bit more safe and conservative with his picks. I just feel like that T1 that everyone talks about, they don't really seem to turn up to finals. So I actually think them being the favourite, I'm not really feeling that. I would like the odds to be higher. I personally would have T1, I think, as my 3rd or 2nd favourite team. So I would actually prefer if they'd have been about like 2.7, maybe even up to a 3. If it was a 3, I might take a gamble, but I have to say I don't really feel T1 to win the event that much. So then we go to JDG, 2.702. This is my team to win the event. It's not that I think they have the best style or the best cohesion. I just think raw player strength strength. They have the best, especially at mid and ADC. I think the two most important positions for this tournament. And I just think they not only have a real super team, they're really good at team fighting. And those two players, Knight and Ruler, if they can get to the team fights from strong laning, they're going to do so much damage. And there aren't many teams. There might be one team in this tournament that I think can actually stop them in the BO5. So I'm actually going to say I think JDG are the favourites to win this tournament. 2.702. Bear in mind, it's not the lowest odds. I guess I'll say I'll take it. I would still probably prefer it slightly more, but I get there's only 2 or 3 teams can really win. So I actually think overall that's not bad, actually. I think that's a decent one. So maybe I'll do like, what should we say for that? 500. I'll do 500 that JDG wins the event. There we go. Now, beyond that, I actually think Gen G would be my second pick. I think I would probably... Here's the thing. I can see a world where, because they have rookies in bot lane, they do worse and come 3rd or 4th. But if you look at how they played in LCK, I do think they're capable of winning this event. They might actually be the best macro team in this tournament, especially because EDG never made it from the LPL. So I think they just win in that regard. And the way they play out the maps and the wave states, like I think, for example, Gen G is the team that can torment the Western teams. Those Western teams are not going to have a clue what they're tapping on the map. I think it's going to be really difficult for them to adjust. So in terms of Gen G, the only problem I have is for them to be the same odds as JDG, I would like it to be slightly less. I think even like 2.8 would be better, but I don't hate this. If you think Gen G is going to win the event, I think these are all right odds. This is the real one right here. And basically, it depends. Do you care about past history of things like your gouge being all right internationally? Because I'll tell you what, the way Billy played in the playoffs of the LPL, not the regular season, the playoffs, did look really, really impressive and did look very, very coherent and did quite frankly look like all your Gao teams. It looks like him and the fucking jungle just merged brains, and the way they play the map out as a result just looks way better than it has any business being on paper. So I have to say, I do think Billy is a very solid dark horse. And the fact that there's 6 odds, I think that's wild. 6. I mean, yeah, we're talking to win the whole tournament, but even so, 6, that feels like too much. Like, if T1's 2.5, how could Billy be 6? So as a result, by the way, I think as an aside, I'm just going to put like a cheeky, what we're going to do here, just put like a cheeky 50 or something on this. Maybe I'll put like a cheeky 100 just on Billy then. Screw it. I think that's ridiculous. 6 odds. I think that's outrageous. I think it's a nice little dark horse story. Like, yeah, it would be silly for them to win the event. You look at their names. Can you imagine a two, like, I mean, Yagao himself's not that famous, but can you imagine, like, I mean, Bintech already won when it was the online one from China last year with RNG, true. But I don't know. Like, I know it sounds mad. It's mainly the odds that make me feel like this is a cheeky, nice bet. Like, it's not impossible. They are the 4th best team there. Like, there's a world where they mess around. Also, there's a world where they could just play JDG. Like, maybe JDG takes to the Korean teams to them. And there's a world, quite frankly, where I actually think Billy and T1 would be a really fun game, actually. Those are 2 sort of mids who are playing more for the team, for my money, than trying to be a star. So, whereas I obviously want to see JDG and Gen G for the Chovy vs Night Battle, like 2 of the best mid laners in the world and maybe ever. Then after that, you go to G2. Look, G2 aren't a bad underdog at 10. The problem is 10 to 1 odds. Like, those are good odds. It's just it feels so unlikely they could win the event, doesn't it? Like, even, like, look, I think there's a world where they could beat Billy. I think there's maybe even a world, let's say there's some sort of meta, maybe they can force through bot lane, where they can maybe they could beat Gen G. T1's going to be really hard. You'll need Caps going absolutely out of his mind. You'll need all the Draven picks you can get. You'll need, like, Mickey X of anything that's just smirking, and you'll need Broken Blade to stand up. I don't know if that can happen. And JDG, I'm sorry, I just do not believe. Like, they can't accelerate the game enough to be ahead that they'll survive these team fights. I don't think G2 can win it. So 10 odds. It's not bad. If you're a really big Western fan, I think those aren't terrible odds. Now, here's where it gets very spicy, which is realistically, sure, the reason G2 have the 10 odds is because people are thinking of caps. I think around 10 year all the players are a lot of experience, whereas Mad Lions, some of those players historically haven't done that great internationally. People like Niski, can you imagine them winning MSI? Can you really imagine Kazi being an MSI? Yeah, sure, I can't. But all I'm going to say is this. 50 to 1 odds, that's mental. Like, that is actually ridiculous. Like, look, I get it, they're not going to win the event, but 50 to 1. I actually think, by the way, if you watch the low bracket run in LEC of Mad Lions and you're a big Mad Lions fan, I think this is worth a cheeky little flyer. I mean, remember, even if you put 10, it's 50 to 1 odds. It's outrageous. Like, it's not even like it's impossible they can win. Sure, it would still be one of the biggest upsets ever. Like, it would be even crazier, bear in mind the bracket, than DRX winning last Worlds. But it's not like it's impossible. Now, Cloud9, on similar lines, in theory, I should say Cloud9, but I can't. The problem Cloud9 has is this: I don't believe in the macro of any of the NA teams. So when it comes to the NA teams, I wouldn't even waste time betting on Golden Guardians. I actually think Cloud9, the big problem is I expect mid to get way more shown up than it was domestically. They won't be able to hide Fudge. Blabber will have some hints. Berserker's good, but he's playing against Ruler and some of the best players in the whole world, guys. Like some absolutely smashed out players. So I don't know. I think Cloud9, look, 100 to 1 odds are crazy odds, but I just don't think it can happen for them. I don't see a world in which they can do it. And then Golden Guardians, I do think you should just dismiss entirely. Now, beyond that, obviously the odds get absolutely mental when you go down here. I would obviously, for understandably, say it'd be irresponsible to say a better 1,000 to 1 team to win it in that sense. I will say, if you wanted to a really crazy bet, historically, the most underrated region will always be LMS/PCS. PCS talent, like, let's be real, the two players everyone's looking on, Golden Guardian, Gory and River, they come from PSG talent in the past. PSG talent's produced many, like, just generally PCS in general has produced many different teams. They seem to always match up slightly better than you'd expect internationally. It's not even like this is impossible. Like, it's very unlikely in G2. Mad Lions is even more. Cloud9's outrageous. I'd actually say PSG talent have a better chance than Golden Guardians for my money. Like, I'm not as familiar with this PSG talent, but I'd still say I'd probably put them, like, what, closer to, like, let's say 150 to 1. I think so. Actually, that's not a bad. If you want to do a cheeky tiny one because you're a massive fan of that region, this isn't a bad one. GAM is known for classically being an upset team, but this is talking about win the whole tournament here, guys. They're not going to win the tournament. And I think it would just be ridiculous to imagine these teams can win. It's League of Legends. It's not like other games where you can have crazy fluke winners. It was crazy that DRX won, guys, and they were still the, like, a top 4 team by the end from Korea. Like, the idea GAM's going to win, I think you're living in a dream. So I personally would favour JDG. I think the price is decent. Gen G, I'd like the price a bit more, but I don't mind that as a second one. After that, I think T1's a little bit too cheap on the price here, but then against T1, you know, everyone bets on them. I think Billy's actually underrated. I think G2's not a bad dark horse. I think Mad Lions is a crazy dark horse, but I would still potentially put something on it if you want to have a little sweat. After that, I do think it's ridiculous to put the other ones. Maybe PSG talent if you want the craziest outlier odds of all time. 769.23 to 1. I don't think it's going to happen. So I think personally JDG's going to win. Knight's going to win. It's going to be the LPL again. If not, I think Gen G, we get a Chovy win. Some of that's what I want to happen, but also thankfully for me, it appears like it could be what does happen. Shout out to Esportsbet. Obviously check out the first time deposit bonus, 50% or up to 100 USDT. Make sure you get your bets in for the outright winner of MSI.